Okay, this is a little tip I came across not too long ago on how to work with this panel bond adhesive. This is a 3M 8115 adhesive. This is the material that they use to glue cars together with. The stuff is amazing. I glue all my side panels together with this. The problem with it is you get these mixing tips and they're all assembled. This slides into here and it mixes the material as it goes through the tip. The problem is if you use just a little bit of this, now you got this tip all full of adhesive and it's going to harden up and you're going to throw it away. You only get 2 tips with each set of, each order of the material. So what I do is I push the inner part out, I put a nail in the end here, I grind the end off a nail so it's not pointed, push this out, so this will be all full of material. And I've got one of these little plastic jars for powder coat, and I'll put these both in there, and I fill it about halfway with lacquer thinner. Now, as long as this stuff is not cured, lacquer thinner dissolves this. So you can either put it in here and you shake it, and about every half hour you have to shake it again. And you pretty much have to do a routine of shaking it. Otherwise, what I do, I made up this little jig here. And I use this. This is actually a polisher I made that I use for, actually this is the tube I use. I fill it up with glass and I make sea glass basically. But then I came up with this other one where you just slip this in here and I turn this on and I let it run like that for about, probably an hour, maybe 2 hours. And you just leave it run. And when you're all done, you pull the tube out and you dump out the material in a cup or something and pull out your 2 parts and they'll be perfectly clean. And that way you can use the same tip, basically 1 tip for the entire tube, even if you just use maybe 10 different times you do an application. So you can save a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of heartache by just doing that little one thing. And one more thing about this panel bond adhesive, which is really awesome. This stuff is kind of like an epoxy, but not really, because it's not very heat sensitive. What I found out is if you just put the material on and leave it, under its own, it takes 10-12 hours before it gets to the point where you can work with it without getting it all over yourself. Or if you have a powder coating oven like I do, I'll glue stuff together, put it in the powder coating oven, and heat it up to a couple hundred degrees, actually 300 degrees. And within 10 minutes, the stuff is hard as a rock. And the other thing is, this stuff will actually probably hold together 800-900 degrees because I powder coat panels at 400 degrees and I will put the adhesive on there, powder coat the whole thing with the adhesive and everything, and it never comes loose. It just is amazing the amount of heat this stuff can take. So if you're powder coating parts and you've got them glued together, don't worry about it. It'll work out just great. And in fact, a lot of the seams and stuff that I want to, round out and make look nice, I use this stuff before I powder coat because the powder will actually spray over the top of this material and it melts into it and leaves a really nice finish. So a couple tips on the powder coating and the adhesive.